Welcome to TOPLINE HOTLINE.
Hello, everybody. We're listening to Top Line Hotline. It's the only hotline on your Top Line channel. Every Thursday, we're gonna get you with the questions that you need answers to. Thank you. I don't know.
Were you a professional country singer at one time,
I'm a
Sam?
professional
I'm pretty
everything.
Sure
I'm a professional friend. I'm a professional enthusiastic guy.
I think people need to appreciate that none of this is prepared. Like, it's just like each time you'll pull something out of your ass and it'll be great.
I'll pull it out of my sphincter. Anyway, just kidding. Nothing gets pulled out of my sphincter. So, all right, this isn't it's not work. NSFW. All right, everybody, it's Top Line Hotline. We ask a question from Pavilion, from the CRO community most often, but not necessarily. We also answer questions from people that send them in. I've got Asad Zaman, CEO of Sales Talent Agency, AJ Bruno, CEO of QuotaPath, and I'm going to ask the question and then get their answer. And this is a good one. So I was just on the phone with a CEO. Now, this is a CEO that used to be a CRO. So a CRO founded a company, raised some money, runs a tech company now, has been CEO for a number of years at this point. And the company
was CRO of that company first and then
No.
CEO?
No,
or got hired in as CEO?
No, he founded the company. He's a co-founder.
Oh, okay.
And he started it as the CEO. And so he was CRO. Now he is CEO. He's been doing it for a while. This isn't like last year. This is like a couple of years, I think probably 4 years at this point. And he was on the phone with me because they're running out of money. And I mentioned this conversation earlier this week on the episode, right? So they've got a term sheet. They're going to be able to raise the money. It's a very aggressive, sort of punitive term sheet. He thinks maybe he should try to sell the company. I said, there's no buyers for the company. He said, is it possible for me to go back to being a CRO after having been a CEO? He said, I feel like in some ways my career options are now more limited because it just feels like a difficult, almost impossible step back to go back to being a CRO after having basically back to being anything after having been a CEO. I bet this group has some strong opinions. Asad, we'll start with you. What do you think?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Great question, by the way.
That's a great
question.
Very good question. That's one of the best we've had. I think it is possible, but the probability is lower by a significant margin compared to when the person was a CRO looking for another CRO role. I think once you become a CEO, the assumption is that if you're good and successful, your next role will be CEO and the one after that will be CEO, or you'll just be CEO of this company for a very long time. And I think anytime that you have to do a pivot over there are a lot of questions that have to be asked. And a lot of those questions are going to have an assumption, which is this person failed at being a CEO and is now taking a step back to be a CRO. They'll still want to be a CEO again. Next time that becomes available, they're going to leave us and they're going to go do that. That's a major question that people will ask. People will question if this person's mindset is in the right spot. Like, they've had such a significant failure. This is how somebody will think. I'm not saying this is true. They've had such a significant failure. Will they have the enthusiasm and the excitement to come in and be able to be a CRO? Is it too much of a step back? Is this too much of an existential moment in the person's life? I think those are the questions people will be asking, which makes it a really difficult transition. But it is a possible transition. The thing I think we have to recognize, though, is when you're making a transition of this sort, it's all about narrative, similar to what we discussed in the last episode. When you're trying to sell your company, it's about narrative and story. So what's the narrative? What's the story? Can you turn this moment of hardship, this moment that you have failed but probably learned a lot, into something that's going to be very attractive to an organization as a CRO? Bringing that perspective in is going to be an advantage, not a disadvantage. That's what you have to do. And the last thing I would say is you have to be willing to take a step back in terms of the caliber of company at which you might be a CRO compared to the caliber of company you could have been a CRO at if you had not taken this CEO job and had taken another CRO job. So you might have to give a little bit to get the CRO job in, go execute really well, kill it, and then you can go back on the track that you were on previously.
Great answer. AJ?
Yeah, this is a question that my father actually gave me really good advice on one time. And this was when I started my first company, Trendkite, and there was some challenges of who was going to be the CEO. And we were like, Matt and I were like co-CEOs, or what's this going to look like? And I flew home once because I was like, am I really, after 7 months, going to leave the company I just started that's having good traction because I like started the company to be the CEO? And I talked to my father about this, and he said, look, AJ, you can always start another company. You can always be a CEO again. You can go down that path for sure. You can start over and do it. But the learning that you're going to get and the pressure that comes with the CEO role is something that you just, I don't know if you're ready for at 27. And something that you probably like know that there's going to be a target on the CEO's back. And that's a really big challenge. I've been there. My father was a business owner too. I've been there, and I just think that you probably shouldn't do that on your first one, and just take the ego, and it's okay. And he was 100% right. And so as like a CEO by title, if I think about a next iteration, whether that's CRO or whatever, I don't give a shit anymore. It's about, what did I learn? Because I thought about that as a failure. Like, if this person that's asking that is thinking about this as a failure, we fail all the time in what we do. But like, it's not like something we're going to, as Asad said, we take that narrative with us. It's not something that we're going to do. And like, so hubris and ego are tough things, especially in the CEO seat. I would say do like whatever you're really good at. If it's CRO, then you're good at CRO, and that's okay. And if you want to go back to the CEO role, it will be available for you, unless you're like
I
Biden,
don't know.
right?
Do you think like it'll be available again? So this person was a
This
CEO.
person's a founder, right?
Yeah, but they were unsuccessful. Then they went back, became CRO, and now they want to go be a CEO
can't go
again.
found
Unless
it-
they
found-
found the company themselves, I don't think anyone's hiring them in as a CEO at that point.
I don't know if that's true or not. It's tough to tell. Every situation, there's industry experience and knowledge experience. They've learned a lot as a CEO. Like, I think about this year
Interesting.
for us. Are we the same CEO that we were at the beginning of this year, at the end of this year?
Absolutely not. Yeah.
No.
You know,
Absolutely
as
not.
you were talking, I thought of this Charlie Munger quote, which is "Getting rich is not hard; staying sane is hard." And it kind of it relates to what your dad told you about being a CEO at 27. Like, it was good advice.
Yeah, it was the best advice. It worked. Thanks, Dad.
Sam, what do you
Thanks,
think?
I just like watching you guys go back and forth. That was great. If you had to do it, I think, Asad, I think I've seen people, founders, and I hate to talk about age, but I've seen young founders fail, and it lights a fire under them, particularly if they need to make a living, to come and make a big impact in an organization. So you're back. Here's what I think.
That was a word from our sponsors.
Yeah,
That just
exactly.
happened.
Everybody froze.
The first ever top line hotline word from our sponsors.
What I was saying before is I've seen early stage founders fail and then move into like a sales job or some other job that is below the CEO title. I think I tend to agree, but it is about the narrative, and it is about convincing people that you've learned from the experience and that you're hungry for the job. I think the problem with the whole thing is that every job, I appreciate what your father said, AJ, but I think we can all agree, especially the three of us on this call, every job sucks compared to being CEO. And this is what I told the person that I was speaking to. I said, what are you going to do? You're going to go back to being a CRO. You're going to fight tooth and nail for 3/4 of a point to a point, of equity, whereas you own 20% of the company now, even after multiple rounds of financing. You get to make, or at least be participating in, every big important decision, and you're probably going to get fired as a CRO, in 17 to 18 months. I think particularly the job of the CRO is not a great job, to be honest with you. and it's something that I've been thinking a lot about. And I'm committed to making Pavilion work because I just don't want to. I just don't want to. Could I, if I had to? If I had to put food on the table, I'll do anything to put food on the table for my 3 doggies. But go ahead, AJ.
But we're talking about, just to be clear, we're talking about someone that's clearly the company's going to get shut down, right? And so, like, what is the alternative? What's the alternative here? Like, I understand the commitment part of it,
but his point is he's got to turn this. This was in the context of, should I take onerous terms to keep the company alive? Should I try to get the company sold, which I didn't think was an option, or should I just shut the whole thing down and try to go back to being a CRO because that was a simpler life?
No, take the term sheet, take the money. Like, you got to take the money, keep the company alive.
Take the money.
Let's
go.
See, we could have answered this in like 5 seconds. Like, we went off on a 10-minute tangent.
I think there's
the money. Let's go.
As Kyle Norton would say, hedonic adaptation, which is like, you don't want to go back to not being a CEO once you've been a CEO. It's hard. It's hard. Yeah. Anyway, this has been another fantastic episode of Top Line Hotline. Thanks to everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you next Monday. I hope everybody is safe. This is Thanksgiving weekend in the U.S., or week in the U.S., so I hope everybody spends time with loved ones, family, or friends, and we'll talk to you on Monday, everybody. In fact, I think it is literally Thanksgiving that they're listening to this. Holy shit, this is important.
Yes.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Canadian, say it.
Bye, everyone.
No, you say happy Thanksgiving.
I'm thankful for all our listeners and for the 2 of you.
All right, very good. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Top Line Hotline.